How the Big Ten should schedule the game and all the games right here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. We're breaking down the Big Ten here at the voice of college football, MarkRogersTV. We invite you to, of course, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live, which is just about every day leading into the 2020 college football season. Like the videos to help us here on YouTube. And, of course, we're looking at the Big Ten. Announced last week that they would only play conference games and would probably go to a 10-game conference season, which has yet to be announced. All right, the Big Ten normally plays 9 conference games, but it's been stated that the Big Ten will not just add 1 game to a current 9-game conference schedule, that they will completely tear up the schedule because they are looking at providing flexibility within the schedule in case there are teams that cannot play on particular dates because of the COVID-19 situation and the health of the athletes. So the Big Ten could take, like any other conference, 3 different approaches, in my view, to rescheduling 2020. First and foremost would be at least the perception of protecting the players and the health of the players, meeting limitations on the travel regarding extra games. Therefore, the Big Ten would be scheduling extra games against teams that are in close proximity and limiting travel. I don't necessarily think, based on what I know of the situation and the spread of the virus, that that is necessary or even that beneficial. Therefore, the Big Ten or any other conference, and we're going to go through the rest of the Power 5 and my recommendations on scheduling for 2020, I would approach it this way. We're losing a ton of money. That's already going to be the case regardless because of the lack of gate merchandise and concessions at the games, that being taken away, in addition to all the big non-conference matchups. Therefore, we need to try to recoup as much money as possible. Therefore, the additional games should be big ticket items, meaning Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. The top teams should play each other and the lesser teams would play each other. Therefore, I'm going this route in regards to my rescheduling the Big Ten in 2020. So keep the 9 conference games that have already been scheduled. There's nothing wrong with them. There's plenty of flexibility because we're basically taking a 12-game season that's played in 13 or 14 weeks leading into conference championship game weekend, and we're sizing that down to 10 games played in that same 13-week window. Therefore, you've got flexibility in case of cancellation of games that need to be rescheduled. All right, so keep the 9 games and rework them in any way that you need. All right, this is an opportunity for the Big Ten or any other conference to attract attention to its conference, and especially the Big Ten and the Pac-12 need to do this at this point since they don't have attractive non-conference scheduling. Therefore, they need to boost the conference games to draw attention. Therefore, let's capitalize on what college football does best, and that's rivalries. All right, therefore, again, we're going to keep the 9 conference games that are already scheduled, and we're going to match up the teams like this. There is one cross-division rivalry that is always intact in the Big Ten. So the Big Ten, when it went to the East-West current format in 2014, aligned the divisions with rivals playing each other in division play. Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Iowa, Wisconsin, all play in the same division. Northwestern Illinois is another example. There is one exception. That is Indiana-Purdue. That game is the only cross-division rivalry game that is protected by the Big Ten. And it would be protected one more step by the voice of college football, and that would be in 2020 that Indiana and Purdue would play a home-and-home series. And that 10th game would be a home-and-home series for all 14 teams in the Big Dime. So protect Indiana-Purdue, but also add a home-and-home series. So Indiana-Purdue play in both Bloomington and in West Lafayette in this quirky, crazy year of 2020. And we'll look back 10, 15, 50 years from now and say, that was the year we played those home-and-home series because of the recommendation of the voice of college football. And then the rest of the games would look like this. In the Big Ten Western Division, Wisconsin and Minnesota play for Paul Bunyan's Axe, and they would do it twice in 2020. Wisconsin, Minnesota play twice. They met the final weekend of the season in 2019 for the Big Ten championship game berth, and they would meet again, home and home. All right, we also have Iowa and Nebraska. So this was a game that was pinned by the Big Ten as the rivalry weekend designated game up until last season. Let's revert back to pre-2018, and we would have Iowa and Nebraska again. They would play on the final weekend of the season, but they would also play a home-and-home series in Iowa City and in Lincoln. The other games would involve, of course, Northwestern and Illinois. The big rivalry between the two Illinois schools would be played twice. And again, the cross-division rivalry game between Indiana and Purdue for the old Oak and Bucket. In the Big Ten Eastern Division, you've got Maryland and Rutgers. Okay. Upon arrival in the Big Ten in 2014, Maryland and Rutgers were pitted as rivals playing the final weekend of the season, with Michigan State and Penn State the other forced rivalry by the Big Ten. For some reason, the conference has gotten away from that, and they have scheduled actually Rutgers-Michigan State on the final weekend and have looked to bolster the Maryland-Penn State game. But I would revert back to Maryland-Rutgers playing on the final weekend and the home-and-home series. And the home-and-home series would go Michigan State-Penn State. Of course, Indiana-Purdue. And then we would have Ohio State and Michigan playing a home-and-home series. Michigan fans, I don't know if you would want that. Or you get an extra shot at the Buckeyes. And Ohio State would have to step up and beat Michigan twice. Ann Arbor and Columbus. Of course, the game that is scheduled for this season is at the Shoe. All right, my record projections on this 10-game season for the Big Ten. In the Western Division, I like a three-way tie between Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, all finishing at 7-3. I believe Minnesota would emerge as the Big Ten Western Division champion based on tiebreakers. Next up, I've got Purdue at 5-5, Nebraska 4-6. Then I've got Northwestern at 3-7, and Illinois finishing with just 2 wins out of 10 games in the Big Ten. Over in the Big Ten Eastern Division, Ohio State wins again, but they falter this time in one matchup, whether that be against Michigan or Penn State. Ohio State goes 9-1, and then I've got Penn State at 8-2. Michigan goes 6-4. Then I've got Indiana at 5-5. I've got both Michigan State and Maryland at 3-7. And then Rutgers grabs a win for the first time in 18 games in the Big Ten with Greg Schiano back in Piscataway. The Scarlet Knights finish at 1-9. So it's an Ohio State-Minnesota Big Ten championship game with the Buckeyes at 9-1. Minnesota finishing in a three-way tie top of the Big Ten Western Division at 7-3. That's our proposal for the Big Ten schedule in 2020 with an additional game going the home-and-home rivalry series. Would love to get your comments. Please leave them below on this video. And, of course, subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. But don't forget to hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live, which is just about every day. And also, you can contribute to the channel through Venmo, PayPal, and also Cash App. And stay tuned to Mark Rogers TV for more college football coverage.